Hi guys, welcome back to the Spurred On podcast. We're coming to the end of what I describe as a week of disaster. Not only do we have to live with the fact we got punished 3-0 by Fulham, but as a result, none of our content gets any views. So I brought Sonny from Sonny Talk Spurs onto the show to discuss that Fulham game a little bit more, and also more importantly, going forward, I think we need to kind of put that to one side and think about the next kind of 10 games, starting, of course, next week. But first of all, Sonny, how are you, mate?
I'm very good. I'm in that weird mood though of even though, a loss, I just want us to play again to sort of, right the wrongs. And I've been watching a lot of your videos lately, and I think we're very much on the same wavelength of backing this manager and just, keeping the faith. Unlike some of the Spurs fan base, I saw your video today about,
Yeah.
echoes of negativity, and I feel like that's not good at the moment. We
But is
got
it
to we got to move past that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, to be honest, because it feels to me like it almost feels dangerous to be glass half full, which I do try to be. I do the watch alongs for We Are Tottenham TV, and they have a couple of guys who come on after from Tottenham away, Stell and Mister, what does he call himself?
Our box office, yeah. I
Mister
was on a
Box Office,
podcast with him
Alex.
last night.
Yeah, yeah.
He's funny.
Yeah, I got to talk to them at the weekend and obviously saw some of their tweets, and it does feel dangerous to me to be like kind of glass half full, because this kind of what I call like the corner of the Spurs fan base just seem to get so much glee from a bad result, so they can bring up all of their kind of anti-Levy, anti-Enoch, and a little bit now almost like an anti-Ange rhetoric. And you said you think we're on the same page, but what does it actually mean to you in terms of, you know, how do you take these bumps in the road as opposed to how these guys do?
I think it is a process. I sound very, stereotypical when I say this, but I trust this manager more than any other manager in the last couple of years. Since Pochettino, I've
Yeah.
not trusted a manager this month since Ange Postecoglou. There's a reason I bought this T-shirt this week, and I'm going to flex on every podcast I'm on. I just love him to bits, and I understand that. I think what the thing with the Fulham game is. It was a bit different to say Wolves at home, Wolves away, Villa at home. Even that Chelsea result, it was a bit like it was a bad day at the office.
Mm.
You couldn't pin it on one person. It was a lot of people turning up and just not really delivering. And on the back of an amazing result that was Aston Villa, it came as a shock. And I think, maybe some Tottenham fans, including myself, might have got ahead of ourselves and thought, we can turn up to Fulham and just bat them aside 3-0, but we didn't. But going back to the original point of, I just feel like it is all about, we are and we were ahead of schedule after those first 10 Premier League games, and doesn't usually start this well at a
Mm.
club. It does take a lot of setting to get to know the philosophy, get to know the system, and a lot of the players have performed well in it. Think of the fullbacks, the centre backs, all up and down the team. But now it seems like questions are being asked about the forward line now. What's our best midfield? It's sort of the Tottenham fan base is split on all these different points of view. But I just think at the end of the day, you can have your opinion, and I think that's fair enough. Everyone can have
Of
their opinion
course.
on certain matters. But with Ange Postecoglou, his comments, afterwards speak volumes of the man he is. He sees this club going in the right direction. He wants to be, and I said this last night on the podcast, he wants to be at our football club, unlike Conte, who thought he was doing us a favour.
Yeah.
He's a statesman, Ange. I feel like he's such a good guy, and he really cares about these players and developing them and the football club as a whole.
Yeah, and he's diplomatic, and the way that he talks about I love this thing that he's talking about, where he's determined not to talk about fourth in a way that this club has always seen fourth as the promised land before, and he wants to kind of reevaluate our expectations and push them further up. And yet that seems to be somehow like when a bad result happens, something, a stick to beat him with as well. Whereas when there's a good result, everybody's kind of on the same page. I mean, do you feel like me? Like, I think that's really positive for the club, that he's trying to show that there's more than that's possible than what we've achieved before.
I think it's the way he's gone around it as well, because obviously when Antonio Conte got fourth, he sort of told the team not to celebrate and sort of came out afterwards and said, I'm used to winning titles, not this.
Mm.
Andrew's gone about it a certain way of like this whole, he's trying to get rid of the Tottenham hoodoo and this like trophy expectation and all that sort of stuff, which sort of, what I think it takes over the fan base a little bit, that we get fed up of rival fans giving us chip about our past and what our current seasons last couple of years.
Mm.
Whereas I think Ange is delivering it in a way where as I've said, it makes sense what he's saying. He's trying to improve this mentality. He's here for a process. It's not, we're not at the end goal of anything yet. Funnily enough, it's a surprise these results haven't been more apparent this season. I
Yeah,
thought there was going to be more, like against Liverpool, against Arsenal away, Manchester City away. We expected, we went to Manchester City at the Etihad with 4 fullbacks in the back line and got a
yeah,
3-3 draw. That is impressive in itself. And Fulham are a tricky team. I think we can't take it away from them. I think, in some of my comment sections, I said it was a masterclass by Fulham and Tottenham weren't good. And people were like, that can't coexist. And I believe it can, because that is what I saw with my own eyes. But going back to Ange, I think, yeah, he's got his right ideas, and I like how he takes the flack. He
yeah.
came out afterwards and sort of went, this is a bit on me. Unlike Antonio Conte or Jose Mourinho, who probably would have chucked all those players under the bus.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if you agree, but I feel like there is a sense of almost, there's not really a word for it, but this whole thing about Ange not having managed in a, top tier league before is something that almost people are keeping under their hat to bring out when a bad result happens, to then be like, we told you so, you can't, and then it comes back on Levy as well. It's like, oh, he was your 4th choice and he's never managed in a top tier league and there's stuff like that. And it's actually like, if you're going to appreciate this manager for all the positives that he's doing when we're winning a game, I don't think you can then kind of turn full circle when there's a bad result and suddenly bring out all this stuff from before, right?
Not at all. I just think it's reactionary. It's very football Twitter
Mm.
/X sort of, it's like I said in a recent video. I feel like with players, you're either world class or you're
Yeah,
rubbish. Like there's
yeah,
no in between anymore, where there should be. And Postecoglou, he was hit with this stick when he joined it. People bring out the Australian stereotypes. It gets a bit silly. I feel like it is a bit ridiculous. People have said the same about Arteta. This Pep's assistant, he puts the cones out. Look at him now.
yeah,
People said about the Zerbi. All these managers. If anything, I think they use it as something, pardon the pun, to spur themselves on. They really like it in the sense of they want to be proven wrong. They want to be like show fans, rival fans, critics, that they can go out there and do it. I mean, look at Tim Sherwood criticised Pedro Porro, and he's gone from strength to strength since that sort of thing. So it does show you
yeah,
that people can, it is about proving people wrong in football. It was always, for every 99 person or every 99 people who say one thing, there'll be one person who, even after the Villa result, someone will say, oh, actually, in the first half, this happened. It's like, sometimes you just got to live in the moment and enjoy it. This is, Andrew's come in and in delivered in the most important aspect. He's brought back attacking football to Tottenham, and he's got us competing. A lot of people, even Tottenham fans, thought we were going to finish 8th or 9th without Harry. And we sold Harry Kane. I
yeah,
think people forget we sold Harry Kane in the summer,
yeah,
and look how well we're doing. And,
yeah.
we're spreading the goals around in that front line. I don't care what people say about, us hitting, people were criticising Decky and Brennan Johnson. They're turning up and scoring goals. They're being involved in this team.
Yeah, there's a bit of short-termism, people not able to see past the last result and
Mm.
almost, forgetting themselves how happy they were after the Villa game. Just for people who don't show the retention commitment, let's tell them a little bit about your channel now halfway through, Sonny. Tell them where they can find you and what you're getting up to there.
Yes, so Sonny Talk Spurs on YouTube, growing along nicely. I mean, my schedule got thrown up a bit in the air after that result, but I'm sort of exploring all different things at the moment. Barnaby is on my most recent video where I explore where will we be in the next 3 years. Let's think long term. Let's see what Ange has had to say. I've done a lot of Ange videos recently about his comments he's made, stuff that Jamie Carragher said last week as well. That's a good little video. One of my most successful videos. But yeah, so go and check those out. There's a lot of good content going along every other day. I'm not as consistent as you, Barnaby, but trying to get there.
Top man. Yeah, definitely check that out, guys. Sonny Talk Spurs, really great channel. He's a top guy. So moving forward, then let's try and put Fulham to one side. You mentioned there you had that video. You got a lot of people to ask to answer the question, where do you think Spurs will be under Ange over the next 3 years? Not to kind of preempt or stop people from going to watch that video. What was kind of the overall consensus? Was there a kind of a similarity, or was there a few different thoughts?
Do you know what it was? There was two glaringly obvious opinions. I think a majority of the Spurs fans, and if not all the ones I spoke to, and I think that does reflect the whole fan base. They love Ange. They believe we can get consistent top four and knock on the door of the Arsenals, the Liverpools, and the Manchester Cities of this world. And I think there is that belief that he can win us a trophy. This year was a bit disappointing in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup,
Yeah,
but there is that general consensus that he will take it more seriously next year. It's all about developing that squad and getting in the better players. And then I spoke to a lot of other different fans. I spoke to some City fans, United fans, Liverpool fans, Arsenal fans, and they're similar. They see Ange as a bit of a threat, actually, which was quite interesting. They do
yeah,
see him as, he is in that tier below of those managers who are, as I say, knocking on the door. But the problem they suggest is Ange's still got a bit of a way to go to be Arteta, to be especially Pep Guardiola. But maybe with Klopp leaving, there is a gap there. There is that
yeah.
possibility. I think people said it, didn't they? Like a couple of years ago, until Pep and Klopp leave, this league's basically a tussle between them two, and Arsenal have come in to disturb the party. I do reflect a lot of what I see at the moment. I see it as, and the Athletic did a great article on it. I don't know if you saw it, and I did a video off the back of it about comparing Andy's first season to
Yeah.
Arteta's and Klopp's. They both finished eighth. I know Arsenal won that FA Cup and it did help, and
Hmm.
Liverpool got to a Europa League and Carabao Cup final that year. But statistically in the Premier League, we're doing a lot better. All our metrics are higher. I think
Yeah.
we've conceded more goals. That's the only negative. But that is Ange ball in a nutshell. But, we're higher league position, and you just got to view it as that. Arsenal fans were calling for Arteta out. I bet all of them who said that now must have, be red in the face.
Well, they should be. Arteta has done a far better job than I thought he would. I do still
Yeah.
have a doubt as to whether he can properly get them over the line, but there's of course a part of me that worries that that's wishful thinking. And I agree with what you're saying. Obviously, Klopp leaving, and then I think the potential of Man City genuinely getting properly punished towards the end of next
That's the thing as well.
season is almost like that is the time we should be trying to build to, like in terms of getting Postecoglou the squad that he wants, the players with the attributes he wants, the depth in each position, and sticking with him through thick or thin, whether he has some bad results in April this year or whether he gets off to a bad start next year or whatever, but allowing him to build that philosophy and that positivity throughout the club so that maybe when that opportunity arises, then we can be fighting with Arsenal and whoever comes in at Liverpool, be that De Zerbi or Alonso or whoever. But it's very difficult to follow legacies. Not many managers succeed off the back of legacies, and therefore I do think there'll be a chance once Klopp and Pep leave. I just wanted to say one thing based on something you said as well. Obviously, it's right to talk about trophies. We've not been blessed with trophies, etc. But how do you feel? This is like a hypothetical situation, but how do you feel it will really change the discourse if Tottenham were to win either the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup? Because for me, nobody talks about Arsenal having won, I think, like 4 or 5 FA Cups in the last 10, 15 years. What they talk about is how they haven't won the league and they've never won the Champions League. And I genuinely believe it would be the same with Tottenham. Now, of course, we'd want a day out and we want to win that trophy and whatever. But do you agree with me that actually it wouldn't change the discourse in terms of Spurs as what's the right word? A club that doesn't succeed properly.
I do think that it's what I just said, monkey on our back. I think it's rival fans. It would shut them up. But even I could picture it now, Barnaby, with that whole you win a League Cup and then they go, it's just a League Cup. It's
Exactly.
not, it's just an FA Cup. Just like what you said with Arsenal. It's sort of like in football, if you're not winning the league or the Champions League or a European title, it's sort of like you're not in the question. And that's where I get fed up, for example, when I hear us get it from West Ham fans, when I hear us get it from Everton fans, Newcastle fans.
Yeah.
These teams are called big clubs, but they've gone on longer trophy droughts than us.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace fans who have never won a major honour. They count the playoff final as a major honour, but that is not what it is.
Mm.
So I do find it funny that, don't get me wrong, I think you're spot on and I agree with you. I'd love a day out. I want to see us win a trophy. I've only seen us win one trophy
Hmm.
in my lifetime supporting Spurs. But it is one of those things where it is, I think it's more to shut football Twitter up than
Yeah.
it is to put that in our trophy cabinet because we have won trophies, we've won major honours. Arsenal haven't got a European trophy, and we have. And even West Ham, they won the Conference League, but to me that was like winning the JPT. So I just feel like there is levels to it, and we are getting there, and I feel like it will happen. And it is a shame that we didn't go more for them this year, especially with the route to the final. And
Mm.
you look at Chelsea, you look at Liverpool. Could they have been beaten with their kids? It's hard. It's hard to say on the day. Cup runs are. You never know what's going to happen. But yeah, I do think it's more of that social media world we live in of just banter that we just want. I think Tottenham fans get a bit sick of that.
Yeah, completely agree. And yet here we are stuck right in the middle of social media, football, making content ourselves. Sonny, that's really been amazing. I'm just going to ask you one more question before we go. Looking
Yes.
forward, 10 games to go, starting with Luton. How do you envisage us finishing the season?
Well, I have been a bit flip-flopping about this. I thought we'd finish fifth, then went for fourth, and then I'm a bit on the fence now. But I think Villa are in a bit of a downward spiral. I think they're really struggling. I think Emery is going to prioritise the Conference League. I know that doesn't get them Champions League; it'll get them Europa League. But
Mm.
to them and to him, I think they're winning that is more of an importance. And they can, they put Ajax to the sword in the second leg of that tie. So and Manchester United, I think, are out of the question even after that FA Cup win. So I do think we are going to finish fourth. We've got a lot to say in the title race. Those are going to be quite important games. I think the City game moving is quite
Yeah,
important for the schedule.
yeah,
But we've got to turn up in these big games. Away at Stamford Bridge, away at Anfield. We've got to get points in them if we want to be taken seriously. And even Luton, you've got to come out there. Luton are going to, have a good day out coming to our stadium. We've got to
definitely.
really put them to the sword.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you. I've still got a good feeling. I still think in those big games we are hard to beat and will score goals. So I've got a good feeling about those games. And I think we'll be all right in the Luton game. Although just thinking about it then, their fans will have a lovely day out and I think they'll make it aggressive. But I think we'll be okay. And then the one thing I was just going to follow up on from what you said, I could totally see Emery, prioritizing the Conference League, but then also being like properly able to prioritize it in the knowledge that coming fifth will probably get Champions League anyway.
That's the thing.
So yeah, I think I agree with you on that. Okay, so one more time, Sonny, just tell them where they can find you across all your social medias, and thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, cheers, Barnaby. Great, always like coming on here because we, as I say, similar wavelength, and good to have these sort of chats. But yeah, Sonny Talk Spurs on YouTube, uploading most days. Got a lot of content going on during the international break, and then Sonny Snelling on all my other socials, mainly on Twitter and Instagram. So go and give that a follow as well.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Make sure you press like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Go over to the podcast platforms, be that Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Give it a follow or subscribe there. And if you want to become a Spurred On Pro or Patreon member, it's only £1 a month. You can find out in the description box how. But most importantly, try and keep it up. Be more positive. Everything's going to be okay. We've got the right man in charge. And I think things are just all starting to come together. And as Sonny's t-shirt says, trust in Ange. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.